Good morning. Welcome in 6:30, November 20th. Supposed to be a warm-up day. We might see mid-50s by 3 o'clock. So get out, enjoy it. Today is going to be a little bit windy, south wind, about 20 miles per hour, pretty much throughout the day. Also, just as everybody can see, just the coronavirus in our region is pretty prevalent. We're definitely seeing a lot of cases around in Washington County and Chittenden County. So again, just let's follow best practices. Health and safety is here for any guidance, assistance, questions. Just feel free to shoot me a text, give me a call, and we can discuss further. This week's code of conduct is to drive safely, defensively, and courteously. It's one of our biggest exposures here in engineers construction, especially with the changing weather. So check those tires, make sure you got plenty of windshield wiper fluid, check your windshield wipers themselves, all that good stuff as we're preparing for winter driving conditions. Remember that following distance. Try to keep it to 3 seconds. So excellent job this week, another 7 days without a recordable. So please keep maintaining best practices when it comes to doing those JHAs, communicating those known expected hazards and putting proper controls such as engineering controls to help isolate and eliminate any potential for injury. With that said, I'm going to kick it over to Susan Graham. Susan Graham is back for part 3 of our harassment training. So Susan, I'm going to kick it over to you and thank you for joining us this morning.
Okay, no problem. All right, is my screen on?
I just kicked it over to you. You should see it now.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, good. So welcome everybody. Good morning. Thank you for the intro again. So today we're on week 3. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me these past 3 weeks. So today, hold on 1 second here because I'm just moving something around. Okay. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about what you as employees can be doing to help to contribute to a work environment that's free from harassing behavior. I think this slide pretty much just says it all, that if you behave in a way that ECI reflects the values that ECI has, it reflects the values that are shown in their policies, there shouldn't be a problem. Professionalism is key, and ECI values is key. So really, I could stop right here, but of course I have 15 to 20 minutes, so I'm not going to. We're going to dig into this a little bit more deeply. I think that the key to a lot of this is just plain using common sense and being respectful when you're interacting with other people in the workplace. So remember that golden rule, right? You want to treat other people as you would be expected to be treated yourself. Here's that word respect again. Treat your coworkers with the respect that you would actually give to a client, right? If you're going to say something to a coworker, granted, you're going to know your coworkers better than you're going to know your clients, but think of your coworkers sometimes as clients, especially if they're coworkers that you don't know very well. They should absolutely be treated with the same level of respect. Keeping it professional, keeping it work related. Think before you speak. This is a big one. If you have a little voice in your head that's saying before you say something, oh, is this appropriate or isn't it appropriate? Chances are it's not appropriate. So if anything is making you feel uneasy before you say something, hold back and think about it before you say it. Chances are it's not something that you should be saying in the workplace. And you really can't assume that whatever you're saying in the workplace really is acceptable by other people, because some people are going to be more comfortable being forthcoming and saying, I really didn't appreciate the way you talked to me. Other people are going to just keep it inside and they're not going to say anything. They're the people that don't want to create any waves. And you're just assuming because of their silence that they're okay with it. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as well, because that makes it difficult if you don't come forward. But as we know, a lot of people don't. So you can't just automatically assume that the behavior that you're engaging in is okay with people that you're around every day. So I kind of like this one too. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. So when we're talking about the people, the silent ones who don't say anything and they don't create waves and they just kind of sit back and say, well, I guess this is just how it is around here. To those people, I think that it's really important that you remember that you don't have to put up with inappropriate behavior in the workplace. But it's also kind of incumbent on you to come forward and say that something's going on that you're not all right with. I think that part of preventing is just kind of keeping focused on the work at hand. If you've got a lot of time on your hands to be talking about things other than work-related issues, you might have a little bit too much time on your hands, right? Avoiding personal observations and comments. I'm not saying don't be nice and don't be social to people, but personal observations where you might be critical. I mentioned last week, you're having a bad hair day. You might look at somebody and say, oh, that outfit, I can't believe they're wearing that. Oh, look at the color of that shirt. That's terrible. It doesn't match their pants. Who cares? Keep it to yourself. It really doesn't matter. Keeping appropriate boundaries. We talked about physical boundaries. Those are a must. Touching in the workplace is just something that isn't acceptable anymore. Some people just like to keep up more personal boundaries as well. You always have people in the workplace who are more than willing to be sharing their personal lives. Others, maybe not so much. Just remember that not everybody is going to want to share. Don't instigate polarizing conversations. I'm not saying don't engage in polarizing conversations, because sometimes you have to. Polarizing conversations take place in the workplace all the time over things that you disagree on. You're not always going to disagree with people, but don't intentionally instigate them. If they come up because it's a workplace issue that you're not agreeing on, that's one thing. But if you know that there's somebody out there who has different political views than you, don't egg them on. No means no. This is really big. If, say, for example, you have an attraction to somebody in the workplace and you think, oh, okay, I'm going to ask that person out. And that person outright says no. You need to let it go. Don't keep going back to that person, because that's when it could cross that threshold into harassment. So, remember, if somebody says, no, don't engage in that behavior, or no, I'm not going to go out with you, you need to take it at face value and say, okay, I'm not going to push that anymore. And again, don't touch anyone without their permission. That's the physical boundaries that we've talked quite a bit about. And I wanted to touch on, this is kind of a buzz phrase nowadays, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here in the HR world, it's called DEI, but it is important, and it does kind of fit into the atmosphere that ECI really works hard to create, where your workforce is respecting that everybody in the workplace is different, and you've got respect for those differences. There is a lot of value in diversity, right? A lot of people talk about, oh, well, this employee, they're just not a very good culture fit. I think it's important, instead of thinking about, well, they just don't fit in, think about, what are they adding to your culture? Yeah, maybe they're different than most of the people that you have out there on your work site, but different only means that they're adding something, right? They don't all need to fit in, because with diversity comes more ideas. It comes broader thinking. So think on the terms of somebody adding to your culture, as opposed to this person just doesn't fit. Treating everybody with that same level of respect. And it doesn't matter whether it's a coworker, it doesn't matter if it's a vendor, it doesn't matter if you're on a work site and it's somebody that's just walking by on the street. They deserve the same level of respect. And, I kind of like this phrase too. Diversity is when you are inviting somebody to the dance, right? Diversity is when you say, okay, we're going to have a diverse workforce, so we want to make sure that we have a lot of different age groups and different genders that are represented in our workforce. That's kind of different than actually going to a dance and being asked to dance, right? Because somebody who doesn't fit in, they can go to the dance, but they're going to be sitting off in a corner and nobody's going to be talking to them. So there's a difference between actually diversifying your workforce and having a lot of different factions out there on your work sites versus actually including them into your everyday work and your everyday interactions. So, it's important to remember that just because somebody in your workplace is different from you, it doesn't mean that you can push them aside. You should be interacting with them just as you would interact with anybody else in the workplace. So going back a little bit to the people who don't like to speak up. So if you've got something that's going on in the workplace and it's just making you feel a little bit uncomfortable, I think it's important to just trust your instincts. Kind of like I talked about your instincts telling you that something you're about to say isn't okay. If you're uncomfortable about a behavior that's going on in a workplace, chances are the behavior probably isn't okay either. So I do think it's important to, even though it can be difficult, to let your coworkers know when something's going on, somebody's engaging in some sort of offensive or inappropriate conduct. And that's important even if you're just a casual observer, right? You could have two people who are interacting with each other and they're telling off-color jokes and they have nothing to do with you, but you have to work next to it and you have to hear it and it's really bothering you. So I think it's important to, step up and say, this isn't what we're all about here. I'd really appreciate it if you stop. And you don't have to say it in a way that's being offensive to the people that you're talking to. You can say it nicely, but I think it's important to try to get that point across. But also know that if you're really not comfortable doing that, you have so many people within ECI that you can go to. You can go to Ben, you can go to Matt, you can go to one of the owners. You can go to whoever it is that's going to be doing your HR. Since Sue left, we're not really sure who that is, but you can go to your direct supervisor. I think, but it's important to go to somebody who is in a position to do something. If you're just talking to a coworker about it, hopefully that coworker is going to say, I really think that you need to talk to somebody else about this who can actually do something about it. And the same thing, if you ever get a coworker coming to you and griping about something that's going on in the workplace, encourage them to bring it up with somebody who is in a position to do something about it. So you've got a lot of different options if you really aren't comfortable stepping up and saying, hey, this isn't okay. So if you do run across a situation where people are engaging in, potentially harassing or even just plain inappropriate behavior, there are ways that you can diffuse the situation. And, you can, if you're coming up on a conversation, say, for example, the two people telling off-color jokes, you can kind of inject your way in there and totally change the subject, talk about something work related, or, just kind of come between the two of them and start talking about something totally different so that the situation kind of goes away, at least in the moment. It doesn't mean that means that this behavior isn't going to kick up again, because if it's happening once, it's probably happening a number of times that you don't even see. But it would at least alleviate the situation in the moment so that nobody else is overhearing what you have to overhear. If you hear somebody who is a target of some sort of harassing behavior, it would probably be appropriate to actually pull that person aside and say, I heard what he said to you, or I heard what she said to you, and it's not okay. And I really do think that you need to tell them that it's not okay. Or again, let's go to Ben or let's go to Matt and let them know what's going on, because this isn't all right. And again, I'll go back to saying, if you've heard it once, chances are other people have heard it as well, and it's going on way more than just that one time. So it is important to say something about it. If you're comfortable, you can always talk one-on-one with the person who's engaging in the offensive behavior and say, I heard that, and I'm sure it made so-and-so feel uncomfortable. So you know what? Knock it off. Again, you can go to your manager, you can go to HR. I also think this is just my own little tip, because my brain tends to be a sieve, and if I don't write things down, I don't remember. So, if you have an opportunity, just kind of write down what happened, the circumstances, so that you can remember it later on. Because if it's something that actually turns into an all-out investigation, you're going to be asked about it. And if you're not asked about it for a week. You know, the world passes you by in a week, and an awful lot of things start cluttering your brain, and your memory really isn't that clear. So if you have an opportunity, just jot down, you know, this happened when, this is what was said, and these are the circumstances. This is what happened. So that's just my own little helpful hint. So again, when it comes time to actually reporting it, you know, and it's going to be in your harassment policy that you're going to get when that handbook comes out, that you have a lot of different options to go to. And again, under Vermont law, ECI is required to appropriately investigate these complaints. And just because you have reported it, you are now protected from any kind of retaliatory action. So you can feel 100% comfortable going to management if there's something going on that you feel needs to be addressed. So again, ECI is going to investigate a complaint. And according to your policy, here's kind of an outline of how a complaint process would happen. You would go to someone who was in a management position. You're going to tell them what happened. They're going to say, okay, we're going to need to do an investigation. One thing that I need to kind of say and make sure that it's up front is that ECI can't guarantee anonymity in this. They can't guarantee that this is going to be confidential. They're going to make every effort to keep it confidential, but we all know that, especially in a smaller organization, that people talk, word gets out. Hopefully, everybody's going to respect confidentiality with this. Your management team absolutely will. They are required to. But it doesn't mean that in the course of an investigation, people aren't going to put 2 and 2 together and figure out who it is. So there's never going to be a guarantee that everything is going to stay confidential. So if you are the person who's brought this forward, you will be advised of the outcome. That doesn't mean that you're going to be told all the details of this person. We interviewed this person, and this person, and this is what they said happened. No, they're just going to tell you, we've looked into it. We found that there's a possibility that some harassing behavior took place. We've taken action, and we don't expect that it's going to happen again. But if it does, you know where to find us. We need to know. If it's applicable, there will be disciplinary action against anybody who is found to have been engaging in harassing behavior, and as that's worded, up to and including termination of employment. So, you know, it depends. There is no one size fits all. If it's something that, you know, it was a one-off comment, you know, the person who said it didn't realize that it would be taken the way it was taken, you're not going to lose your job over it. But if it's something that's really egregious, you know, if you're sitting on your phone and you're looking at a porn site, you know what? That's a problem. You will probably lose your job over that. So again, and then the person who has brought the complaint is also going to be told that, you know, we've taken actions to make sure that this harassing behavior is going to stop. They're not necessarily going to say, well, we've given this person a final warning, or we've terminated somebody. No, they're just going to say, we've taken appropriate action, and we are making sure that this harassment is going to stop. So, and again, that retaliation piece, just remember you are protected from any kind of retaliation. And that goes for actually participating in an investigation as well. So if you at some point get a phone call from Ben and they say, okay, we need to meet with you, and they sit you down and they say, I need you to tell us what you remember about this day and what happened and what was said. That you don't have to think to yourself, I can't come out and say what I know, because I'm really, really afraid that this is my boss you're talking about. You know, say, for example, they're doing an investigation on your supervisor. You might be a little hesitant to come out and say what you heard, because you know it's going to get your supervisor in trouble. You are protected against retaliation. So we were going to originally be meeting again 2 weeks from now, but since my Thanksgiving travel plans have been canceled and I'm around on Wednesday, Matt has decided that we're going to wrap this up on Wednesday morning at 6:30 a.m. So that's when we're going to be going over some case studies. I'm really hoping that people are going to feel free to unmute themselves and talk a little bit about some of the live cases that I'm going to put up there. And the cases that I'm going to talk about are based in fact. I haven't just pulled them out of thin air. I've been doing HR for 35 years. I've seen a lot of things. So I'm going to use some live examples, and hopefully we're all going to be able to talk about the situations and learn a little bit from them. So that's it for today.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Susan. And
You're welcome.
the stuff that you went over today seems to be 90% of a lot of the problems that over my some odd years, even at ECI, that we struggle with every day, you know, and it takes courage to do the right thing. The basis that we want to provide everyone is to have the right people that know what the right thing is, and then to help to encourage you guys and gals to do the right thing. It's a lot easier, but it does take a lot of courage initially, but it's a lot easier to take care of things in the moment. So a lot of this stuff, I think everyone that I know that I see is on this call today, I've dealt with at least once with something that you said today. So I appreciate it a lot. I think today was the essence of something that is going to be very helpful for everyone. So thank you.
Good, you're welcome. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to let Matt or Ben know, and I'd be happy to address them.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna show my screen and go to the email of the week. You see it okay out there?
Yes, we can, Ken.
Okay, perfect. So for announcements, got quite a few this week. We're starting with the Thanksgiving holiday of next week. So we'll be closed both Thursday and Friday. And so have your time entered and to your supervisor by 6 a.m. Monday at the latest. And then that time needs to be entered and approved by 8 a.m. And then on that day, on Monday, to ensure that payroll can be processed by Tuesday afternoon. So it's a really compressed schedule for our accounting and payroll staff. And then also as part of next week, as we've already said, that there's a special edition of the safety meeting Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. So we'll do a go-to training, look for an invitation on Tuesday night. So another thing that's going on is the 2021 Health and Dental Insurance Program is being rolled out. You'll automatically be renewed if you're already in it. And there's some changes here I just want to highlight, or non-changes, I should say. There's no rate increases to the ECI employee. There's no changes in coverage, and there's no deductible changes to the employee. So all that's great information, and we're really excited to be able to say that. And open enrollment is this time of year. It ends November 30th, so you need to take action quickly if you're not already in the program. If you're in the program, like I said, you're automatically re-enrolled, or you continue as you are. So life and disability insurance is another option that's available. The company has a small life insurance policy and a short-term disability on every employee, but there's options where you can increase the life insurance, or also I should say, do a long-term disability program. So all those are good options, and it's a great opportunity to get in at this time because they waive some of their requirements for physicals and all that sort of thing. So it's quicker and easier. And if you have any questions about all the 2021 health insurance, just click on that link there and check, of course, with Sarah or the front office if you have any questions. And then another thing, we sent out a routine 401k mailing. Went out, so you should have it by now. If you have questions, check with Ursula. And cold weather, as we keep reminding everybody, and it was more obvious in the last couple of days, that it's becoming pretty cold around here, well below freezing. So start making sure you're treating fuel and also winterizing pumps. The COVID issues are certainly heating up around the state, around us, and we would need to really start stepping it up to the max. And I highlighted here a couple weeks ago that Vermont is expecting a significant increase in COVID infections over the coming weeks. We need to be extra diligent to keep safe and to prevent a condition that requires us to shut down. So remember, the spring is my question, and we don't want to go there. We want to kind of maintain, you know, a good employment status for the company throughout the remainder of the year. And we can do that if we take the precautions. The project we're highlighting this week is the Vermont Gas Systems Road Tax Road Repair in Moncton. And we were contracted by Vermont Gas Systems to design and construct a road heaving problem at the VGS transmission line crossing on Road Tax Road, which is a gravel road in Moncton. We did a belt and suspenders design, which included excavation of the existing pipeline backfill materials and replacing the backfill and the roadway structure with the sand cushion to help soften subgrade changes, geotextile road fabric, crushed stone and underdrain pipes to make sure we don't have a groundwater problem seeping up through there, Formula 250 insulation board over the entire crushed stone improvement so the board makes sure that the ground isn't freezing, especially at that underdrain level. Good sub-base gravel and a surface stone. Also, we did ditching improvements. So the excavation encountered flow fill right up to the existing road surface or near it, road sub-base, which likely created a rigid backfill zone surrounded by some softer subgrade, which of course will probably have some kind of frost heave or some different condition which caused a frost heave. So in this project, just a pretty cool thing about the project is one of the first where ECI used its new drone to take images and survey the site. The drone takes numerous high-resolution photos that are used to develop a topo surface model based on a computerized photogrammetry analyses. The high-quality photos from various aerial positions, the surface reference points marked on the ground, and GPS drone locations allow the precise measurements of the ground surface and to create ground surface contours using a powerful computer analysis. The photos are then stitched together to form a great aerial image to use for our drawing. And the image below here was created for the as-built drawing provided to VGS in the town of Moncton. So you can see it very light, kind of too light to see well in this image, but there's some light contours off the side of the road. We have details on what we did to show the as-built conditions and the extent of the work in the road and the ditching. It's quite obvious because this is an as-built after the work, so you can see where the ditches were repaired and cleaned and so on and restored. So it's made for a good as-built. And here, this is not at that site, but you can see Richard Keach getting ready to launch the drone there on that no shoulder sign. And he's got some equipment and a little device in his hand, which allows him to see what the drone is looking at. So that drone just zips right up in the air and flies a grid over the area you're trying to survey. It captures the images, brings them back, and you do an analysis on the computer, and outspits the stitched together images along with contours and other information. This just shows the cross sections, longitudinal profile in the road, the work we did. And this first picture shows the flow fill. So it became obvious, as I said, that the flow fill might have caused that hard bump, and maybe the rest of the ground or roadway along on either side was probably reacting like it normally does, where the rigid flow fill area created a point that didn't yield to the winter freezing conditions. So that was excavated to the near of the pipe, and then we backfilled with the sand cushion to allow a more even transition, more of the backfilling operation. And then we put the crushed stone in there and underdrain. We had to do the work half road at a time to maintain traffic. That's why it appears, obviously, we've done the one half. And this actually is on the other side. When we were putting the insulation board in, you can see the fabric on the edges. And then, like I said, we did some ditching. The collection pipe discharge in the middle of the screen there in the ditch. Fortunately, we had pretty good pitch down the road to just run it down, and you can see there's decent pitch here. This is the completed roadway, so hopefully they won't have any problems this winter and coming winters. We know with confidence that you can't do any better than what we did. You know, belt and suspenders, insulation, under drain, and everything, and the sand cushions. And from the photo archives, another photo of the old days doing some roadway work. This was right here in the yard and grading the backyard. You can see the office in the background and up towards Williston Road in the background. And I think that's Al Curtis likely in this old grader. I can't tell you what year it is, but I would have to guess it's in the 80s. So that's what I got. I'll turn it back over to Matt, and have a good day out there, a safe day. Good luck if you're hunting this weekend. And don't forget, Wednesday morning, 6:30 is the Thanksgiving week edition of the safety meeting.
Thank you, Ken. And yeah, that Wednesday meeting will be right on this ID number. I moved Friday's meeting to Wednesday, so everything should be pretty straightforward for everybody for Wednesday. So take a look
Perfect.
for that on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Have a safe day, everybody.